Oh, hey everybody. A few days ago I purchased my boating license from some man driving a white van in a dark alley, and now I'm sailing the Titanic, not to be confused with a Chinese knockoff the Titanic featuring Leonardo da Vinci. However, I can't recommend this method of getting a license because the man who sold me this has now fled to Mexico to avoid child support. But don't fret, the skies are blue, the sun's shining, and oh look, there's an iceberg with Paper Mario characters all over it in front of us. Well, I guess now's a good time to start working on my will and start canceling those credit cards. You ever take a look at something and say, why the hell isn't this made out of paper? Well, Nintendo thought the same thing and said f it and made 7 of these bad boys. The Paper Mario series is everybody's favorite problem child. Sometimes you love him and the other times you wish you only had 2 before deciding that condoms were a worthwhile investment. But the universal opinion of the best Paper Mario game usually falls on the shoulders of Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door, argued to be the perfect combination of an interesting story, a likable main and supporting cast, and a great use of RPG mechanics. Because of this, many consider the Thousand-Year Door to be the definitive face of the Paper Mario franchise. And then they made this piece of shit, which belongs neatly tucked away in the trash beside The Last Jedi and The Last of Us Part 2. But aside from Nintendo making shitty sequels, it's the game like Thousand-Year Door that keeps the fandom going, even to the point where a lot of the obscure aspects of the game get cataloged into a neat little package aptly named Insert Name Here Iceberg. These icebergs are neat little collections of all the details you might miss in a game or just random facts you might never hear about unless you go digging for them. Here's one. Did you know that The Last of Us 2 is supposed to be a masterpiece? Yeah, me neither. But the sheer obscurity of these facts is why the tagline of almost all these videos is how deep does it go? God damn it, was I on the hamster website again? While you have to excuse me to torch my search history, let me give you a rundown of how this video will be structured. This particular iceberg has 8 layers to it, with each layer progressively getting more obscure and each having its own section of the video. Presumably if I finish burning my search history, I'll have timestamps for each of these sections, and you'll be able to freely skip around at your own leisure. But if you skip the ads and don't watch the video all the way through, I'll probably starve, and holy shit, what the hell was I watching? Kicking layer 1 off, we have the interior of Mario's house, and yup, it's a house alright. Aside from the fact that Mario has a slight case of narcissism plastering his name up on the front of the house so that everyone knows where both Mario and Green Mario live, there's not too much to write home about. You got your standard red-green color scheme, the toothbrushes in the kitchen, and the shroom jars. And remember kids, if you do shrooms you'll turn into a paper Italian and go to hell. But that's about it for what you see in the actual game. Unlike the first game where you could come back and see the bedroom in Luigi's basement, that's all gone in this one. However, in the game's code, there is a fully modeled bedroom with a made bed, floating lantern, and what I can only assume is alcohol so that Luigi can drink away the memories of Mario is missing. All of this with camera pans from the kitchen to the bedroom gives the impression that Mario's house might have been accessible earlier in development, but was probably scrapped early due to a lack of ideas with what they could have done with it. Next up, we have the gamer toad who, contrary to popular belief, actually goes outside. I know, revolutionary for all gamers around the world, and in 2004 no less. This toad will talk about the games he's been playing as you progress throughout the story. He'll talk about Fire Emblem, then the original Paper Mario, and then he'll even talk about Paper Mario the Thousand-Year Door. Leave it to Nintendo to advertise all their games inside their own game. Huh. I guess I know where Mario gets his narcissism from. Something to note though is that in the Japanese version of the game, Toad doesn't actually talk about Fire Emblem, instead talking about Super Mario Bros. This is probably changed because around this time Fire Emblem was dipping its toes into Western culture and the free promotion was an easy add-in. Nowadays Fire Emblem is really just known for women with big tits and making Smash players pissed off. I see absolutely nothing wrong with this. Moving on, now we have some Paper Mario cameos, in the form of Parakarry who delivers mail because, get this, he's a mailman. We also get cameos from Lady Bow and her butler, Bootler. Sadly they can't join your party despite rumors saying that they can, but you can admire them in their boo-ness. Okay, I'm done admiring. Up next we have the Flavio glitch, and what can I say? Flavio glitches. If you don't know who Flavio is, he's basically the staple of every good series. The terrorist! He also enjoys cutting necks, despises the Egyptians, and he hates the United States. Who wouldn't want to have this guy on their team? Essentially, this glitch comes down to a sequence break where you get ahead of the game by doing various events and actions in a particular order that I'm not going to explain because I have a case of I have no fucking clue how this works. But if you do want to see how that works, it'll be linked down below. Essentially, this glitch breaks the game and allows you to take Flavio to places you wouldn't normally be able to take him. And while this serves no practical purpose, I have to say, I have a lot less to be scared of with someone who is full of terrorism by my side. Now we have the 8-bit Mario Easter egg because everybody loves nostalgia. That's why we have these cute little retro consoles and the Amish. Now, I'm a big fan of nostalgia, shown by my Black Plague posters in the back, and I love that they made these little 8-bit versions of each of the main casts to play around with in this room. It's too bad you don't get to fight with these guys at all because you can only really walk around the tiny room that they put you in and you turn back to regular Mario after you leave. I definitely would have liked to see some sort of retro style fight, however it makes sense they wouldn't go so far for a simple Easter egg, but it's nice to see Nintendo giving some fan service to the 8-bit fetishists out there. Next up, we have even more Nintendo self-promotion because fuck you literally anyone else. This time they're talking about their games in the well-known Nintendo IP Crippling Debt Simulator, commonly known as Animal Crossing. Other than the fact that Animal Crossing reminds me they have to start paying taxes in a year, it's a series mainly played to reroll for the characters you like and evict and deport ones that you don't. The bird of interest to us is Gulliver. He makes references to titles like A Link to the Past, Earthbound, and The Thousand-Year Door. He talks about Bobbery and Rogueport when referring to the player character as one of his possible dialogue options in Animal Crossing New Leaf, and also makes reference to Keelhaw Key in New Horizons. Hey, you want to see something terrifying? Yeah, I know, nightmare fuel. This right here is a red bones, not to be confused with the blue bones, the yellow bones, or the bones. In Thousand-Year Door, when you can't encounter an enemy anymore because you committed mass genocide of their species, you can find their tattle info at the bottom of Professor Frankly's trash can. How does he get it? Well, one look at this peak meow specimen tells you all you need to know. Strangely though, the tattle information for the red bones is found in the garbage can after chapter 1 when you haven't completed your genocide until chapter 8. This is probably a decision just made earlier in development to put the tattle in after chapter 1, and they just added in more red bones afterwards to make it harder to commit a mass extinction while not going back and fixing this error. Next, we have a topic which I could be bullied off the internet for, so I'm gonna have to keep this one a little bit short. Vivian is a character in the game whose role on the internet basically became Rule 34 and Mario Vivian smut fanfictions. But before all that, there was an ongoing debate over the gender of this character. While the Japanese and European dubs try and hint that Vivian being called a boy by her sisters alludes to her being trans as she's presented as a female and believes that she is a female, we have to take into account that this is 2005 Nintendo, and something about Japan just screams, this is a trap joke, isn't it? But in reality, I don't think Nintendo would ever outright say a character was trans, so whatever the fans want to believe, they can believe. Now we have a quick one with the star piece panels. Essentially, a large portion of these tradable items can only be found when Mario uses the might of Zeus to concentrate his ass strength into a ground pound to find these hidden panels. And now we come to a split-second error in-game with Luigi's L emblem where it appears backwards, and wow, someone doesn't have a life. It'll always amaze me what fans can find when searching through literally everything on the internet and in games. Errors like this, competitive advantage frame data in Smash, and racist jokes from 2009 to end careers with, and wow, Twitter fucking blows. Finally, for the tip of the iceberg, I've saved the best for last, the Smash Bros. Melee reference, because repeat after me, Melee is the best Smash Bros. Game and literally every other opinion is wrong and stupid. You should only reference the best Smash game of all time, otherwise it's considered a cardinal sin and you'll go to hell. Praise our Lord and Savior Sakurai. Would you believe me if I told you that this wasn't a cult? Sadly, this reference was only in the Spanish translation of the game, where in Chapter 3, Rockhawk says amateurs should stay home playing Super Smash Bros. Melee. I'm sure if this was in the English translations, millions of Melee fans would probably have a stroke in their parents' basement, so good on Nintendo for not increasing the death rate. And that about does it for Layer 1, only 7 more layers to go. Well, I guess I didn't plan on going outside in the next 10 to 20 business years anyways. Starting things off with some good old-fashioned criminal activity, we have the hunting down of the bandit who robbed you in the beginning of the game. Since I'm sure we're all fans of justice like this abomination, all of us probably want to beat the shit out of someone who robbed us. Sadly, Nintendo didn't let us get on the GTA route of murder, so you just track this guy down and he gives you what he stole. Personally, I would have loved to see a gang shootout like all the kids are into nowadays, but I don't mind just getting my coins and going along with my life. Moving away from criminal activity, let's talk about murder. Aside from the fact that throughout the years Mario has engaged in several genocides of his own, it's great to see others getting in the spirit and starting off on their own mass murders. This time around it's a Toad's white chalk outline with some splattered blood you can find in the Japanese version of A House in Rogue port. Sadly, this was removed in the US version of the game because kids could see murder and do the murder. That's good enough a reason for me. Keeping up the trend of felonies, we've got more drugs that Mario uses. Now if you're a Mario fan, you're probably also a fan of his drug of choice, shrooms. Now let me show you this and tell me you don't want to know what he's on this time around. Yeah, I know, he's fucking hot. Essentially, the TTYD world's version of steroids are power rush badges, which give you an attack power increase of +2 when you have 5 HP or less. So the Danger Mario strategy relies on you getting super low on HP and becoming a glass cannon by equipping as many of these badges as you can to brute force your way through a fight. Up next, we finally have something that isn't a criminal offense. The 15 hidden item blocks scattered across the game, and oh would you look at that, I'm getting arrested for tax evasion. Ah yes, the age-old method of making more money by hiding it in hidden blocks all across the world. Al Capone would be proud. And it's not just coins, there's an assortment of badges, jelly, and other miscellaneous items. These blocks are only hinted at by a few NPCs in game, so it's fair to say they get missed quite a lot by normal people playing the game. Going back to retro references, I feel like it was just yesterday. Peach's 8-bit design was never actually used in the game because there was no real use for her model. I can only assume she might have joined Mario at one point, but they scrapped the idea because, you know, fuck Peach. Or maybe this sprite might have been used in the Peach interlude at one point, but it was scrapped because, you know, fuck Peach. Or some programmer got bored and modeled her but didn't tell anyone because fuck Peach. From talking about women, we now have a seamless transition into food. You draw the connections, you misogynists. These little things are called spinias, and get this, they spin. There are a few variations of this little guy, and there's one unused model of a hamburger and ice cream variation, which presumably was meant to be one of Luigi's partners in the Waffle Kingdom, but was probably just unused or forgotten. On the topic of food, let's talk cake. Fuck, wrong graphic. The Glitz Pit cake is a cake given to Mario by a fan that can be added to your inventory because let's face it, Mario doesn't need to be any more morbidly obese. But either because of the Paper Mario community or the Vor community, this item can be hacked in and heals 5 HP upon use. Up next, we got a cameo from a character I'm sure you all know. It's a fucking Nintendo character again. This time we get a surprise appearance from Junior Trooper, who appears in the background of this douchebag's picture. This guy's name is Ziptoad and is essentially the Tom Cruise of this universe minus the culty stuff. He basically sends you an email once you catch his imposter, and in the background you see another Junior Trooper from the first Paper Mario series. But would it kill them to put in some other random character into the background instead? I mean, I'd personally love a flying Jill Valentine or something. I mean, it's not too far-fetched. She survived a fucking rocket launcher. I'm sure she can evolve into a Koopa hybrid if she wanted to. This is Screamy. This is also Screamy. The first design is what they ended up using, but the previous design of the character was much different and looked like this instead. But instead of just throwing out the designs altogether, the devs smacked a new coat of paint on the character and made it into one of Luigi's partners. At least Nintendo recycles, and you should too. Like all the people that returned Last of Us 2 so that some other sucker would buy them. Speaking about almost unused things, here are some completely unused things. Hey, it's not always about saving the planet. Sometimes I like to use my trash can. The 1,000-Year Door is filled with a bunch of unused animations like this set for Lord Crump. I particularly like this one because he's about to act up. We've also got some Flavio animations, an unused unique poison animation for Dupless, and this, a unique running animation for Peach, lifting her skirt and showing off her feet, and oh come on! Alright, after bleaching my eyes, let's talk about errors. In this case, in Chapter 8, Sir Grotus appears to have a dialogue error when you have to choose between whether you want to continue fighting him or not. Though, just like Walking Dead Season 4, all your answers still lead to the same fucking ending. He does have different dialogue options for whatever you choose, however it seems like the program responses were switched with one another accidentally. Finally, we've got more unused things because apparently one recycled item was good enough for PR. The Koopa's Curse and trade-off items both have images associated with them and can give the enemy the slow effect and can make the player earn a boost amount of star points after battle respectively. The only reason I see to it as these items were removed was because they weren't all too interesting. Side note, I'm 90% sure the trade-off item is secretly one of those spiky things that emo kids wear. So fair enough to Nintendo if they didn't want to appeal to the emo populace, but I have to say, I am very disappointed in your diversity, Nintendo. Alright, let's start layer 3 off with a bang. Death! Yeah, I know it's what everybody's into nowadays, but the 1,000-Year Door did it before it was cool. This time around in chapter 8 of the story, Mario dies by suffocation if you don't start moving around the crowd of bones. I guess you could say Mario got severely wounded as the bones most likely pierced through the internal organs, causing internal bleeding, which eventually led to his death. Oh yeah, he also got boned. On that morbid note, let's talk about cheating. Adults cheating on each other and I cheat on my GameCube emulator with my Wii. I swear it's not personal. But in the 1,000-Year Door, you can try and cheat in the Happy Lucky Lottery by changing the clock on your GameCube, however it doesn't go according to plan. You're greeted by this ominous text and a traumatized bomb essentially having a panic attack. This scene is just unsettling and its main purpose is just to teach kids not to cheat, with the side effect of PTSD of course. Speaking of cheating, here's Billy Mitchell. If I give context or say any more, I might get sued, so let's just keep moving. The Power Bounce Badge is a somewhat rigged item in the 1,000-Year Door that allows the player to do consecutive bounces on an enemy by pressing A. The rigging part comes into play when you realize there's a cap on how many bounces you can do on a boss with one attack. So to all the people who've mastered the art of the Power Bounce Badge, you'll never find happiness or satisfaction in killing the boss in one move. Here we have the Trouble Center, your one-stop shop for do these pointless side quests to show how much content this game has. Don't get me wrong, you can get the furry partner Miss Mouse here, but it's not all too interesting of a location. That is, unless you know about the hidden back door. If you head around to the back of the building, you can use Flurry's ability to blow off the back and finally see inside and the person running the Trouble Center. Well, that's a person alright. Up next we have Beldam in the opening scene, and if you didn't know, here's Beldam, whose main character traits are running away from old age and having a pointy nose. She actually appears in the intro of this game as the cloaked figure who gives Peach the magical map, who immediately mails it to Mario because fuck adventure. Now we come to a piece of dialogue that reads, "You can't enter from here," when you try and enter the exit pipe of the Pit of 100 Trials, which surprisingly, you can't enter from there. I mean, they could have been a bit more courteous and put a nice little neon exit sign here, but apparently that was too much work because the general populace is way smarter than me and doesn't go jumping into random pipes all the time. Yeah, I'd like to call bullshit on that. Next up we got fire, which is why I put an image of the burning US economy. Okay, enough of that. In the 1,000-Year Door, when Mario uses a fire flower on a fire enemy, instead of dealing damage, Mario instead allows the enemy to multiply and heal themselves. Now, this is all fine and dandy, but genocide happens no matter what, so enjoy your life while you still can. Moving away from genocide, again, we have some more cut content. In this case, being cut partner's super attack. We can tell these descriptions all correspond to Koops, Madame Flurry, and Miss Mouse respectively, however it does seem like these attacks barely got off the ground as they have no attached animation and are only located in the Japanese code of the game. Coming up next, we've got two Glitz Pit facts, starting off with the origin of the Glitz Pit TV room. When you're trying to escape the locker room in chapter 3, you come across a hidden room with the TV and a table, and it's just about as interesting as it sounds. And right after that, we've got the Major League Partner dialogue in the same Glitz Pit. Essentially, this is some more cut content in the form of dialogue from the other characters in Mario's party about Rockhawk's fake crystal star on his belt. The reason this dialogue never made it in-game was the fact that you can only beat the previous fight with Yoshi, essentially making it impossible for any other character to appear in this cutscene. And finally, for the end of Layer 3, we've got the 1,000-Year Door demo, everyone's favorite form of misinformation. Now look, I get that demos are subject to change, but damn did they change a lot in this short section of the game. There's different sentence structure, completely different titles, and a whole bunch more that's different to the final product. Now it's important to mention, the story mostly remains intact with a few changes here and there, so nothing major was actually changed in the final release of the game. Unlike how a certain Asian guy replaced a falsely advertised alive beloved protagonist in a different shitty game. When I show you this object, what do you guys think of? If you said anything other than horsetail, then don't talk to me anymore. If you haven't heard of the most iconic item in history only to be beaten by the Bible and probably cocaine, the horsetail is a cooking ingredient in the 1,000-Year Door. To obtain this item, you hit the radiation poison Diglett 10 times to get the long-awaited horsetail, and then forget about it 5 minutes later because it's a f***ing horsetail. Up next for obscure names, we've got Jabble the Jabai, not to be confused with Scrabble the Scrabai, the greatest Scrabble player of all time. Jabble is a friend of Punio, and you can find him in a secret shop shop in the Great Tree, and if you're nice to him, he'll join your insurrection. But if you're mean to him, he'll run away faster than the girls in my high school did when I told them I make YouTube videos. Moving on from my incredible social life, we've got the Champions Room picture being Rockhawk. This son of a glitch is named Rockhawk, and he's the reigning champion in the Glitz Pit. The reason I say glitch instead of bitch is the way you're able to see Rockhawk's picture in the Champions Room. You essentially have to figure out a way to glitch yourself into the Champions Room before becoming a champion, just to see this instead of the Mario portrait you would normally see. You know, this is probably better than Mario just getting his ego stroked even more. Now we have the Yoshi on the XS Express, and yeah, an adult Yoshi is on the XS Express if you return to it after chapter 6. You might not see it now, but this is fucking news. Coming up, we've got Paper Game cameos in the Paper minigame inside a Paper Game. You can occasionally see Koops' girlfriend, Luigi, and Wonky. They have absolutely no significance or lines in this moment, but you know what they say? Weird Easter eggs keep fandoms alive despite 2 shit games. Next up, we have the unseen stage objects, which are coincidentally unseen. Technically that's a lie, but you'll get over it. You put up with the government doing it all the time. These items are only unseen most of the time, but you can see them when the camera moves away as a shy guy enters the stage. There's boxes, boom boxes, buckets with liquids, and lights. All we need now is a ritual altar and we're one step closer to summoning Satan. I can't say I didn't expect this, but I'm gonna have to ask you to give me that green $sign, Susan, otherwise I'm not gonna be able to eat for the next few months. This next one's a bit of a weird one for me because I'm not too fond of cannibalism. Now I know this may come as a shock to some of my cannibal fans in the comments, but I'm sorry to say I don't like eating people. On the other hand, Mayor Dur is eating transformed villagers. I mean, who could have expected this from him? You know, it probably wasn't a great idea to trust an ominous old man with spooky shadows anyways. You're able to see this cooked pig in the background when a disguised Dupless is talking to the mayor. Dupless is the one who turns these villagers into demon-eyed pigs, so it's not a stretch to say that this pig was probably some background character who got cannibalized. Next on the list, we've got huge Mario arms. What the hell were you expecting? For some reason, whenever Mario falls into water and presumably almost drowns because his 99% body mass of spaghetti weighs him down, huge Mario arms just spawn out of bounds. This can never be seen in game, nor does it serve a purpose. It just exists and is a great way for me to make this video even longer for me to edit later. Coming up next, we have the Rig Shadow Queen bingo, but surprisingly, this is a good type of rigging. In the final fight against the Shadow Queen, there's a 100% chance of getting a Shine Sprite bingo, meaning there's no real luck involved. Sorry Timmy, but you're still an unlucky little bitch. Completely off topic, but I have no fucking clue who this is. I just have him named Douche Kid on my Mac. Moving on, we've got Doty's Trouble, a toad who only appears after you accept his trouble after the main story. It's really weird that his trouble pops up so late, considering your murder spree is practically over by the time you get to him. But it's always nice to get your spirits up by murdering innocents, so I'll just have to let this one slide. And for our final item of this layer, we have the possibility that Nintendo got lazy and threw in a partially finished element into a game. Wouldn't be the first time a company did that now, would it? There's an area of the game called Riverside Station, which theorists have believed to be an unfinished beta area due to the unpolished feel. From the eerie silence despite there being an unused music track, to the strange room with just some random Goombas, it seemed as though this area might have undergone some last minute changes and ended up not being completely fixed up. But hey, at least it's not shitty tree textures. Or cyberpunk. Well, that wraps up part 1 of this iceberg quite nicely. Despite the fact that I'm currently drowning, I can't wait to make part 2 of this iceberg. And looking at my track record of making part 2s, well, I'll see you guys in 6 months.